A bright red ball bounces into the middle of a busy highway, followed by a small child in hot pursuit. The driver of a large truck slams his foot on the brakes and screeches to a halt inches away from the child. The child doesn't even seem to notice. The driver holds down his hand on the horn for several long seconds. He rolls down his window. At the top of his voice he screams, and then he rewinds his window and drives on. 5 minutes later, exactly the same thing happens, but with a different driver. And again, the driver screeches to a halt, rolls down the window, screams at the child, and drives on. And 5 minutes after that, a third truck again screeches to a halt, narrowly missing the child, but this time, however, the driver doesn't honk his horn. He opens the door of his cab, he jumps down from the cab, and he starts to run toward the child. The child looks up and sees the driver's face red with anger, and he starts to run for his life. They scramble over trash cans and fences until finally the driver catches the child, and then he proceeds to beat the living daylights out of him. What was the difference between this driver and the other two? The third driver was the child's father. The son of the Mittler Rebbe once found himself in a small town for Shabbat Bechukotai. Naturally, the Hasidim were delighted to host such a distinguished guest, and they followed his every movement in great detail. In the middle of the Torah reading, when the Baal Koira, the person reading the Torah, reached the Tochacha, the section that details the dire consequences that the Jewish people will receive if they fail to keep the Torah, right in the middle, the Rebbe fainted and fell to the floor. A gasp went up from the crowd. Everybody rushed over to see what had happened, and a few seconds later, the Rebbe regained his consciousness. The Hasidim asked him if they should call a doctor. "No," said the Mittler Rebbe, "I'm not sick. I fainted because of the shock of hearing the severe words of the Tochacha." "Surely the Rebbe has heard the Tochacha many times before," said the Hasidim. The Mittler Rebbe said, "Today, it was as though I'd never heard those words before. Until this Shabbos, I always heard the Tochacha read by my father. Today, it sounded very different." Why do bad things happen to good people? Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher, himself was unsettled by this. And he said to God, "Hareini na es kvodecha, let me see your face. Let me see the fairness behind this injustice." And God said to him, "Lo suchal liros es ponai, ki lo yarani ha'odam v'chai." You cannot see my face, for man cannot see my face and live. In this world, things will seem unjust. And God then said to Moshe, "V're'isi es acharai, upanai lo yero'u." You will see my back, but my face will not be seen. Now, es acharai is usually translated into English as my back, but literally it means my after. Only in the existence after this world will everything be clear. We will understand why this good person suffered and this evil one prospered. The challenge in this world is to remember and to internalize that everything that happens to us, however terrible it may seem, is coming from our Father in heaven. When you know something is coming from your Father, even though it may be a terrible punishment, you know it comes only from a place of love.